The US government recently released over 100 files relating to UFOs. Documents, audio,
loud and clear. 7, go ahead.
Bogey at 10 o'clock high.
videos. Did we get the full proof that so many of us are demanding? No, but there are very interesting things to be found in here. I'm going to take you through a highlight reel out of the initial drop, as well as check out some interesting connections. It's also time to ask, where do we go from here? Things in the UFO disclosure world may be heating up.
I have confidence that it's going to escalate in the next 60 to 90 days, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure.
I recently did a poll asking my viewers what they wanted to see next. I'll be doing a deep dive on a famous online supposed leak in an upcoming project, but of course, with news of file drops, I thought I'd start here first. Leave a comment down below on your thoughts on the files released so far. The 161 files from Release 1 are apparently sourced from NASA, the FBI, Department of Defense, Department of War, and the Department of State. Personally, I think they need to look into the Department of Energy's files. The DOE was apparently involved in dissemination, but I digress. I want to point out, files and materials here are from, quote, unresolved cases. Many or all have been passed through the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. AARO has been accused of obfuscating and hiding information regarding UFOs and non-human intelligence, despite being tasked and funded by Congress to investigate these matters. This means no confirmed crashed disk or bodies from Roswell in this drop. I'd personally like to see the government reveal what they actually do know and have confirmed, but somehow I doubt we see those files. However, there are many interesting rabbit holes to go down. Let's dive in. Let's start with the quote, star video. We see an infrared target that looks like an 8-pointed star with different length arms, moving across the frame and leaving a visible trail before exiting view. It is pretty striking. I do want to note that I'm not sure if the object itself is actually star-shaped or if it's a lens artifact. It appears that the trail that the object is leaving behind is definitely a lens artifact and not a contrail. The object is reading as hot, and the object moves across the screen, the heat trail follows it. Reminder here, these videos represent unexplained or unresolved cases. This is not likely to be a simple parachute that the government couldn't figure out, although mistakes can be made, I guess. Another thing of note, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have had access to this video for a while. We can see here Jeremy has posted a photo of this video before. George and Jeremy have also repeatedly teased they have access to some or even most of the rumored 46 UFO videos that have been suggested to be released by Congress. The next thing isn't a video, but it's a document. There is more video analysis later on. It details cargo on board the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower in May 1985, and it was written by the Vice Admiral of the Navy, Powell F. Carter, to the Secretary of Defense. Right off the bat we see some humorous redactions, but digging deeper, this document is fascinating. The cargo is apparently being held below deck, isolated from standard power, and the material itself exhibits characteristics beyond known. What a fantastic cliffhanger. We see here Captain James W. Jones from the Navy was executing orders as briefed, and notably the crew itself was unaware of what was on the ship and other operations. The ultimate tease document. Remember, material exhibiting characteristics beyond known blank. Now we have multiple orb videos. Remember, these have been determined to be unresolved. Starting off, we have what I've named the windmill orb, obvious as to why. It appears to be intelligently controlled and changes directions. We have another interesting orb video filmed around the United Arab Emirates. The file states the lock-on to the object was lost multiple times. The contrast had to be changed to keep the object in sight. Do we see it enter the water? Not sure. Finally, we have another interesting orb video that seemingly made some tough maneuvers. It reportedly made multiple 90-degree turns at about 80 miles per hour. I've lumped some of the interesting orb videos together because it reminds me of footage I've covered on this channel before. See anything familiar? Small, seemingly intelligently controlled. Obviously, these orbs would go on to create some fascinating crop circles, supposedly. I'm curious what the military filmed orbs were up to. Next up, we have to talk about space. There's audio of astronaut Frank Borman of the Gemini 7 mission. Notably, this audio has been released before, but still a relevant and interesting bit of audio.
Loud and clear. 7, go ahead.
Bogey at 10 o'clock high.
This is Houston. Say again, 7.
So we have a bogey at 10 o'clock high.
Roger. Gemini 7, is that the booster or is that an actual sighting?
Oh, what?
Say again, 7.
Okay, we have several, looks like debris up there, actual sighting.
You have any more information, estimated distance or size?
And we also have the booster inside.
We hear the term bogies used, with Mission Control asking if this was a quote, actual sighting. That to me is a major red flag that shows that astronauts have definitely been briefed on what to say if they see a UFO. Just as interesting is this briefing from Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Michael Collins, debriefing from the famous Apollo 11 mission. First from Buzz Aldrin, the first unusual thing that we saw, I guess, was one day out or something pretty close to the moon. It had a sizable dimension to it, so we put a monocular on it. Buzz continues, of course, we were seeing all sorts of little objects going by, and then we happened to see this brighter object. We couldn't think of anything else it could be other than the 5 IVB. We looked at it through the monocular and it seemed to have a bit of an L shape to it. Neil Armstrong chimes in, like an open suitcase. Buzz continues, it certainly seemed to be within our vicinity and of a very visible dimension. It seems the astronauts disagreed with each other about what shape they were really looking at, according to their own eyes. Buzz Aldrin looking at it like a cylinder, Neil Armstrong stating it might be 2 rings, and Michael Collins chiming in that it was a hollow cylinder to him. I also recommend watching the entire post-landing astronaut press conference, as viewed here. What all did they see up there?
We would like to skip directly to the translunar coast phase and remind ourselves of the chain of events, that long chain of events that actually permitted a landing.
Finally, we have some interesting photos of lights from the surface of the moon. Nothing definitive, but really the space and astronaut releases were a bit of a goldmine. There are pages and pages of astronaut testimony that they've seen something out there. I'd highly recommend giving them a deeper look. Next, the question on everybody's mind, what about jellyfish? The now famous Jellyfish UFO video was released initially by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. It depicts an odd thing that was picked up on thermal footage. An interesting report written by whistleblower Matthew Brown, entered into recent congressional testimony, detailed what's known as Immaculate Constellation. In this report, multiple types of UAP or UFOs are mentioned. One of the categories is notably irregular or organic. And as we can see here, floating brain or quote jellyfish UAPs are present under this category, characterized by a central mass from which multiple arms or quote spars hang downward. The recent government file release shows a potentially similar shaped object. The file itself describes the craft as quote diamond shaped and moving at approximately 434 knots. The observer also reported that the UAP was only detectable via short-wave infrared sensor. Interesting. Next we have what I call the flyby video. Hard to make out the object's overall shape with the sensors on the screen. However, near the end of the video we get a little bit more definition as the object moves past the screen. It could be that the sensor platform passed the object itself rather than the object moving. However, this couple seconds where we can see a bit of a shape on the object is pretty cool stuff. Up next, we have an interesting rabbit hole regarding a potential crashed craft in Sweden. Starting in 1946, residents in Sweden and Finland reported seeing strange objects in the sky. They were called, quote, ghost rockets. That brings us to this explosive sounding document. Flying saucers, or ghost rockets, were being reported hovering over Neuberg Air Base. Reportedly, one crashed in or near a lake, as we see here. Quote, when officers of this directorate recently visited the Swedish Air Intelligence Service, this question was posed to the Swedes. Some reliable and fully qualified people have reached the conclusion that these phenomena are obviously the result of a high technical skill which cannot be credited to any presently known culture on Earth. The Swedes are therefore assuming that these objects originate from some previously unknown or unidentified technology, possibly outside the Earth. Further down the document, it's revealed that there is a hole at the bottom of the lake according to divers, which didn't seem natural or show up on aquatic charts. They even hypothesized craft could be coming from the lake. While the document is dated 1948, it could be discussing events that seem to have happened on July 19, 1946. Apologies in advance for potentially mispronouncing, but it seems like we have witnessed testimony the object or multiple objects seem to have impacted in the Kolmyarv region. Doing a bit of research, we are led to this article, originally in Swedish, translated with Google Translate. According to witnesses, one object was described as a shiny, silent aluminum craft, shaped like a, quote, milk pail. A loud bang was heard that even, quote, shook the whole village as it entered the water. Other objects seemed smaller and were described as bombs, maybe fragments of a larger object. In the end, it was deemed too expensive to drain the lake, obviously. This whole thing is fascinating. I'll put a link to the Swedish article below. As for the final piece in my personal highlight reel for this initial release, we have this odd 10-second clip of a self-described football-shaped craft. Shimmering, we don't really have much to say about it, other than it looks odd. Now where do we go from here? David Grush, famous congressional whistleblower who is currently on Congressman Eric Burleson's staff, seems to think things will ramp up in the next 60 to 90 days. Studying UFOs for a while, we have heard similar phrases many times before. Grush has been increasingly doing interviews lately, notably stating here he believes key figures are blocking the Trump administration from certain UFO files.
My attention actually recently, as of today, there are some actors within certain intelligence agencies, to include DIA and CIA specifically, that are actually blocking some of the president's presidentially appointed team and getting access and getting control on some of these historical records. So I really expect the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, Bradley Hansel, to take care of that, as some of that's under his cognizance, especially on the national program side, which is directly under his organization, to reveal some of the historical National Security Council records on this.
However, Congressman Tim Burchett, also deeply entrenched in this topic, thinks we will see a, quote, holy crap moment upcoming. Jeremy Corbell stated beforehand that nothing shocking would be revealed at first, and he was right. Congressman Eric Burleson also had discussed two specific videos that, if not released, he will push to release.
In the process of being declassified, so I think that there is more to come. If they're not going to be declassified, I'll probably do an effort to release them myself under speech and debate. Videos of UAPs that are flying around Russian submarines, or a video of our aircraft that are firing on some of these UAPs. I've seen those kind of videos, and so I'm teasing that because I know that I'm telling the administration through you at this moment that if they don't release those, then I have the capabilities of getting those videos and released.
Remember, Burleson pushed out this interesting Hellfire missile video, and it's obvious Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have access to more interesting videos. Important takeaways here. Do I think we will be getting HD footage of gray aliens landing and coming out of their craft? No, probably not. Most of the real evidence of craft and potential biologics are undoubtedly currently being held in locations under the control of contractors such as Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and a few others. This means that they are free from Freedom of Information Act requests. Does that mean nothing interesting will come from these releases? Regardless of political viewpoint, this current administration would undoubtedly like a distraction from talking about the costly Iran war or the Epstein files. I don't think these files move the needle for the general public, and for the UFO researchers side of things, a lot of these files have already been out there in public domain. If they want to increase the so-called, quote, distractions, more wild and clear things need to be dropped. Strangely, it seems like that's the way the narrative is headed. More file drops are apparently on the way, with the overall messaging from those in the know being, hold on, it's going to get more intense. Are we in for slow drip disclosure? Is Steven Spielberg going to reveal everything in his upcoming movie? Or will we continue to be told wait 2 weeks for the next big thing for the rest of our lives? All in all, interesting times. But I want to know what you think. Are we continuing to move in slow drip disclosure? Sure feels strange that we seem to be moving forward inch by inch over the last 9 years or so. Comment down below, and thanks for watching everyone. Stay curious and we'll see you next time.